Hello, Steve and James. Thank you so much for your work back and forth. I think something that keeps kind of getting lost in nuance is that Imaginex has this incredible one-of-a-kind facility that is an entirely custom bespoke build. And we've been talking to a bunch of WatchOut developers and designers who their first questions are very specific questions about how the system was built and designed and laid out in the Imaginex. And so we'll just require figuring out the exact details of how this system was built, how it's running, and then how our content can skin on top of that. So in good faith, I've tried to build my own watchout session for you all to take about 15 minutes to test content inside the room. And I think this is going to answer a lot of questions for all of us. First off, when I open up WatchOut, it tells me that your show file is on a much older version of WatchOut. And the question is, why? Totally cool if it's for licensing issues or just general maintenance, but just for us to understand what the limitations are or the concerns are around either upgrading or changing those settings. Next, you'll find a duplicated session that is a copy of what you gave me and are already using every single day in Imaginex, and I've just taken the one cue for the HDMI input, that large screen format. So first and foremost, just making sure there's no sort of corruption or errors in this handoff with each other. If you could just open up that show file, plug in an HDMI to the laptop, and see what you see on the screen to make sure that we're working off of the same duplicated session. Now, when we've prototyped the show in the past, we've plugged a laptop into an HDMI for projection, but we're using OBS, and instead of mirroring the screen, we're using the projection as kind of that second screen or extended display. So that way we can fully customize and switch between different media sources to put onto the projection. So I want to test out that you're able to use OBS, which is a free piece of software that millions of streamers use all over the world. Add the slide that you've given me for the resolution and that top third cropping, and then I've given two video files that you can just drag and drop on top. Right click on them, go to transform and fit to screen, and it will crudely just put them inside the bounding box of this 16:9 HD display. Now, this little eyeball icon will allow you to toggle on and off those different sources, basically stacked like layers on top of each other. And this would allow us to cycle through any number of different clips or media or sources all through the same HDMI input without touching anything in the server room or the projectors. Once we confirm that that works as expected, because it's basically the identical settings Imaginex is already using, then we get into the weird stuff. I've made a duplicate queue of the HDMI input, and I've noticed that it's just duplicating 4 versions of a video source. So it would be reasonable to expect that if we just stretched one of those video sources across all of the display areas, it should have a very narrow piece of the top that displays on all the screens. So if we go to that queue, your HDMI input laptop now should not just be mirrored across the 4 walls, but the same image should actually be stretched fully around. It's not going to look pretty, but it'll tell us that we can stretch the image 360 and possibly play 360 video or wraparound content. Now, there's a sneaky clue in the way that you formatted the picture that we're only using the top third region of the screen. It's not full screen, it's not center screen, it's very specifically that top third, which tells me that WatchOut knows the full image is there, and those red display boxes are basically just setting the parameters or the crop or the mask on what will be displayed in the room. So it would stand to reason that if we moved those around or stretched those out, we could actually have a larger display area from the projectors without changing any of the settings. So very quick and terrible without getting into rebuilding or reassigning sources. I'm assuming the north wall is the stage wall, and so I'll take the right side of it and drag it under the left side of it. Now when we look at that north wall in the room, the right side should actually be projecting under the left side onto the windows and the tables and the stage floor. It will look terrible, but what it will tell us is that we can change the display region without touching anything else on the system. If you would be so kind to set up a vertical iPhone in what I'm calling the kind of southeast corner, basically where the audience enters from the bar and comes across that first little desk on the inside. That way we'll be able to see the laptop in the foreground and then how it's being displayed in the background and get a sense of that north wall projection. This is going to help us understand the simplest and fastest way to adapt our content to make the Imaginex look amazing and truly deliver on that 360 promise. Otherwise, we'd start doing this on August 1st, and we can't guarantee that the first week of shows are going to be high quality enough for the viewer or for Yotel. And we really want to make sure that we deliver on our promise to make y'all look and our show look as good as possible. Thank you so much for your support and collaboration in making this happen, and I know it's going to make for a very, very magical event. I'll talk to you soon.